Hello again, everybody. I hope you were all doing well. This is Pro Football Plus. Ben Parker here. The Iron Man, Shane Ratliff, is here. The left fielder, Austin Freed, is here. Got the full panel tonight. We are so excited to have all of you with us, all of you in the audience, some of you who listen a lot, some of you maybe the first time. We're going to cover the Buffalo Bills tonight and how to attack that offense. We're going to cover the Cleveland Browns, push ahead a little bit into the off season, talk about Deshaun Watson and what they also might do at quarterback. We got some awards to hand out. These two guys have hit their specialties or their secondary specialties with defensive line and defensive backs. We're going to hit some of the leaders in the NFL, and then we'll end up with our final 60. But first of all, the Buffalo Bills offense has just been on fire the past few weeks. Been pretty good all year, but boy, the last few weeks just absolutely on fire. Shane, I'm going to come up with you first. We're looking for ways to get after this Bills offense. No matter what the defense is that we're using, and we understand each defense will be a little bit different, what are just some general ways, if we can, to try to slow down this Bills attack? And Shane, I think it's perfect coming off of this Patriots game in which we did, in fact, see the Bills attack get slowed down a little bit. So you being a Patriots fan, go ahead and take the lead off here, man. Let's see if we can shut this offense down a little bit.
Well, see, and this would have been something I said before this game happened, but like you said, it also played out that way. I think important thing for shutting down Buffalo's offense is short area pass defense. The Bills love to get Knox, Kincaid, and Shakir involved in their offense. It's a lot of quick passes. They don't hit a lot of bombs. That Keon Coleman hasn't developed probably as highly and quickly as they thought he would. Matt Collins, again, is like a short yardage receiver as well. And the Patriots did a great job of mixing and matching that up to try to cover those people. Now, you can do it really one of two ways. You can play press coverage, which they did a lot out of the slot for Shakir. And then the other thing is get man up on your tight ends. Buffalo has been able to do that. And when those defenders vacate, that's when lately for Buffalo, that's when the quarterback takes off and ends up with a 35-yard touchdown run. The Patriots, luckily for them, held off against that for most of the game.
All right, that's our first one. Shane's got short area defense. I've got 5 up on the board. That wasn't one of them, but I did notice the Patriots doing that because they were playing that man defense a little bit more than I expected them to. Did it very well. Austin, what's your first tenet for the night to try to slow down the Bills' offense?
Mine is disguise your pass rush. Josh Allen is a weapon when he knows where pressure is coming from. He is elite in his pocket movement, not just getting out of the pocket, but his ability to shuffle around in the pocket is up there in terms of all NFL quarterbacks, I think. So I'm trying to disguise my look, not show him which direction the pressures come, and create some unique looks for him.
All right, I'm typing this in here. I'll do that a little bit as we go. My first one here is too deep. This isn't always true, especially with what Josh Allen is doing on the offense this year. But Josh Allen with that huge arm, it is one of the best, if not the best, deep arm in football. We've seen Anthony Richardson at times be able to get that deep, but not consistently. Mahomes can hit it that deep, of course, but nobody's better than Josh Allen at consistently hitting the deep ball. So I'm going to play a lot of two deep. Not the whole time. We're going to mix it up. That'll come later. But I'm going to have two deep on as many plays as I can afford to do because Josh Allen at any point in time can just scorch you. And I'm really looking to just squeeze that down a little bit. I want to force him to go short. We'll address Shane's already addressed the short stuff, but I do want to keep two deep over the top as much as I can. Again, that's not every play. Nothing's every play, but as much as I can, I want to squeeze that down. Shane, anything else here that you want to throw in here on maybe how to attack the Bills offense?
I think really to hit off what Austin said, disguising the rush. I think you need to have a lot of pressure up the middle, specifically against the Bills. I think pressuring up from defensive tackle helps the most for them because Allen does like to take off, but a lot of times it's not that he's bootlegging or taking off on the outside. A lot of times he'll step up through a rush because a defensive end goes past their point of attack, and then he'll take up across the middle. Just like you said, teams love to play the two deep. The only problem with that is when you put the two safeties back, once he gets past that linebacker run, he's going to get 15 to 20 until you can
Yeah.
get back downhill on him.
So that's the second. Y'all both have mentioned it. That's number two on my list, but in a different way. I'm coming at it from a different way. But that's the second thing that scares me. First thing I want to take away is Allen's deep ball. I don't want him scorching me for 60 yards deep. The second thing is Allen rolling out. Y'all both mentioned it. It can be either this way or, hang on, it could be out this way. And this way is tough right here when he rolls out that way because he can still throw it or run it. It's like he's got his own RPO built in. He's just an RPO machine that way. So he's looking downfield still 40, 50 yards, even though he's rolling out here in the flats. And then if he doesn't like what he sees, he just tucks it and runs it for, 10, 20, 30 yards, whatever. So that's the second thing that scares me. It's still the Josh Allen show, whether it's the deep ball or whether it's him taking off and running and still being able to throw before he gets to the line of scrimmage. He does it all the time out there at the sideline. So what I had for my second tenet here is 5 on Allen. What I'm really looking to do here is with 4 linemen, 1 linebacker, and y'all have already alluded to this some, disguising the pass rush. I'm going to start mixing it up with these 5 guys. Sometimes I'm going to spread it out right here, and I felt like we watched the Patriots do this at times, just spreading this out, putting 5 guys here. And that really just the idea is contain Allen. I don't want him getting outside the tackles here. That's really what I don't want. Every once in a while he might gash him up the middle, but we'll try to do that. Sometimes I'm going to push him back. I'm going to have a linebacker just spy here, and we're still going to try to contain Allen. But wherever Allen goes, the linebacker goes, and he doesn't quite have to be as fast as Allen if he's just paying attention. Keep out here, stay in front of him, keep him from getting that edge. And as you mentioned it, if the defensive end is doing that as well, then all of a sudden we've kind of got Allen boxed in, and hopefully we can pin him in. That's not easy to do. He's a great athlete. It's harder to do than to say, but that's going to be one of my goals. And then sometimes as well, I'm going to drop 2 guys back here just to confuse him, and we're going to have 3 guys rushing with basically 2 guys spying. And then if we figure out, hey, it's run or if it's a short pass, we jump on that too. But I'm going to mix it up. So both of y'all have alluded to that. Allen scares the crap out of me when he's running like this. So we're going to try our best to shut it down. Austin, coming back to you here. Anything we haven't mentioned so far? I still got 3 more on my short list to try to slow down the Bills here.
This one's very self-explanatory, and I feel silly even mentioning it, but it's wrap up. This Bills team is so good at getting out of tackles. Josh Allen, James Cook, and Keon Coleman are their 3 who I think are the most dangerous with the ball in their hands. Even Dalton Kincaid is a weapon with the ball in his hands. But these are big guys, except for, I mean, James Cook's not that large of a guy, but Kincaid, Keon Coleman, and Josh Allen are all 3 big dudes. And if you're trying to lay the hit stick on them, it's not going to go your way a lot of the time. So my advice to any team is let's not try and, get a big hit and maybe knock the ball loose. Let's just wrap up and make the tackle on the first attempt and avoid all these missed tackles and extra yards after contact that the Bills get.
Listen, it is self-explanatory, and you shouldn't have to mention it, but you do have to mention it because, man, how many weeks do we see it? Not just against Josh Allen and not just with, AFC defenses, but teams just not wrapping up, man. I mean, it's just your basic good defense. You got to wrap up no matter who it is because you can't be giving a loaded offense like this all the extra free yards. You cannot do it. It is a killer. Reaching back to Bill Belichick there, man. That's like one of his top things is do not give up all these free yards with just stupid tackling. Austin, I'm gonna come back to you for one, or Shane, I'm gonna come back to you in a second for one final thought. I've got limit Cook on 1st and 10. They use Cook a lot in this offense. Joe Brady has really past few weeks started just handing the ball off to him a lot, but then they're using him in the screen game a lot too. It's kind of setting the table for this offense is what they're doing. And I can't stop everything, right? I'm focused on Allen. But on 1st and 10, I don't want that to turn into 2nd and 4. So as much as I can, put Josh Allen back here in the pocket now. I really want to limit Cook's running. We see him gashing a lot, but I also want to limit this out here to the screen game. So wherever he's at, this linebacker is also, maybe if we got two linebackers here, depending on the play. 1st and 10, I want to limit him to 2-3 yards, so it's second and long, not second and short. And again, I can't pay everybody top attention on every down. I just don't want on first downs them converting this easy stuff and giving me second and shorts and third and shorts, and now the whole playbook is open for the Bills. I still got two more things here, and one of them is pretty simple. The other one's a little more debatable, I guess. Shane, anything else here?
I mean, the only thing that pops in my mind, really playing off of what you just said, Ben, is I think a key thing for them is to get them in third and long. Because when you have a quarterback that's as big as Allen, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, not only can I use Cook in any run pattern, but I also can just go right up under center, goose it, and let Allen carry that offensive line for another 2 yards. You don't always want him to take those extra hits, but he has the
Right.
ability to do that. And I'd rather get it to where, they put themselves in a situation where they're going to have to dial something up. Like you said, when their offense is clicking and you go from first down and a 6-yard gain off a Cook run, and now we're 2nd and 4, your defense is already in trouble. It's going to be a long day if they keep it on
Right.
that side of the ball. The other thing that pops up is penalties. If you can get them to where they make their own mistakes and you're not adding to it, that helps. A lot of times the Bills have been good this year at getting pass interference calls as well, because they know Allen will be able to throw the ball into pretty much any spot.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you'll get a DB that's already aware of that, and they'll kind of jump the gun. Maybe they make early contact, and you'll bail them out a little bit.
Totally agree. And listen, some of this is just good defense, right? It's not even Bills specific, but some of it is Bills specific. There are some defenses out there who have no shot at doing half of what we're even saying tonight. They don't tackle well. They have penalties all the time. They can do too deep, but they can't limit Cook in any way. They just can't do half of this stuff. But a good defense, these are things that I feel like they can do, and things. Again, you're not going to shut it down. We're just looking to limit percentage-wise how much Buffalo can get away with. So hopefully, instead of giving up 42 points, maybe we're giving up 20 to 24 points, and we give ourselves a real chance to win. I'm going to go ahead and go to my fourth one here, and this one is debatable. More zone than man. Historically, Josh Allen has torched man defense over the past several years. This year, he's good at everything. Zone man, doesn't matter what you do, he's good at both of it, right? Shane even mentioned, hey, he's at all this short stuff. Well, that's because a lot of defenses are trying to take away the deep pass. They're trying to take away Allen's run. So there's a bunch of stuff open in the middle of the field right here. I mean, that defenses are giving it up. So I like playing more zone than man, but again, I'll go ahead and introduce number 5 here because it goes wrong with it. Mix it up. You can't do the same thing on every play. Joe Brady's too smart. Josh Allen's developing too much. You just can't do the same thing on every play. So keep the coverages mixed up, man zone mixed up, 2 deep, 1 deep. I never go 0 deep here on a Josh Allen. The 5 guys watching, sometimes it's going to be dropping 2, see if we can catch Allen not paying attention, maybe a linebacker he doesn't see that dropped into coverage would get an easy interception or something. Just ways to try to limit and make it as difficult as possible for Josh Allen. Do not make things easy. Austin, anything else we just haven't mentioned yet that you want to trot out here?
One I'll mention briefly is I like pressing with my corners against these receivers, except for Amari Cooper, who, I mean, Amari has 2 bricks for hands, so I would just let him get open. I'm not worried about him catching the ball. But especially Keon Coleman is a guy I'm looking to press. He's a young guy who has not, got a fully developed route or release tree yet. So I'm pressing him, trying to take away because he's more of a deep threat guy. His average depth of target's like over 15 yards. So they try and get him the ball way downfield a lot of the times. So I'm pressing him, making him, kind of take himself out of the route early, and that just leaves you with one less guy to worry about for Josh.
You both have leaned man here, and this is why I love
Yeah.
talking about it, even on air here. My number 4 was more zone than man, but you guys are both you guys are both addressing what I knew was a weakness in this defense, because if I have two deep, right, and if I'm using five guys to kind of control Josh Allen, which is important to me, I don't want to give up on that. I want five guys, the four linemen and the one linebacker, no matter how I do it, I want them just kind of squeezing Allen and not letting him out. But the weakness of that is you've got all this open area here. So you're open to all the in routes that these guys want to run, all this right here, any mesh routes, and you're also wide open to all these out routes, okay? Because you're kind of bailing out here on zone. I like what you guys are saying here. Press, press. We saw the Patriots do that, okay? So I'm in favor of dropping my number 4 here and instead switching to press in spite of what Josh Allen has been able to do in previous years. This year, it's a little bit different. So I'm in favor of that. It kind of fixes what I knew was a little bit of weakness in my defense here. So, all right, listen, that's a really good conversation. Everybody remember, you can't stop greatness, but you can try to control it and limit it. And that's what we're doing. Every one of these things is designed to make it difficult for Allen, limit what he can do, limit what this Bills offense can do. And I really enjoyed the conversation. All right, we are completely switching gears here from in season to off season, from a good team in the Bills to a really bad team in the Cleveland Browns. All right, so what we're going to do tonight here is focus for a couple of minutes on the Cleveland Browns off season moving forward. Their regular season is all but over and done with, except for a couple of games here. What to do about Deshaun Watson? I'll set the table a little bit here financially for that. I'll get you guys' opinions on what to do with Watson first. And then no matter what we do with Watson, what other options might we have at quarterback, whether Watson is still in the building or not. So let's look at the finances first here. In 2025, so this is looking ahead to next season, he's going to have a cap hit, of $72.9 million. It'll be the same cap hit in 2026. So they built it to just be the same. That's a larger number than he originally signed to, because they've restructured him not once, but twice. So all that money from 2023 and 24 is now stacked on, like pounds of fat is now stacked on 2025 and 2026. If they were to release him straight up, just straight up let him go, what does that look like? Well, it's a very big number. That's $172.8 million of dead cap space. All right. We'll get to the pie charts here in a second. If they hang on to him for one more year and you fast forward to the 26 off season and they were to just straight up release him, that's about basically $100 million, even fast forwarding another year if you keep him there. Let's talk about, again, these caps are projections here. This pie chart illustrates the first option. If we just keep him on the roster, he'll eat up about 23% of next year's cap, which is large, but still they've got a bunch of money to work with. If they decide instead to cut him, just straight up cut him, and you eat that dead cap money right there, then he's going to eat up 55% of next year's roster. So if they decide, hey, the heck with it, we want him out of here, we're just going to have one huge wrench year, that's still doable if they just eat it all up in one big chunk. That's not desirable, but it is doable considering how much cap space they've got in the first place. I think they're going to roll over about $24 million from this year's cap. So I know some people are going to ask, what about a P61 cut, a post-June 1st cut? That's an option too. Obviously, the Broncos did that with Russell Wilson, but I just don't have enough space on it for it here tonight. So again, if you decide to cut him in the offseason and then designate him, then you basically take that dead cap hit of 172 and split it over 2 years. But he's out of the building. He's gone. So that's some of the options. Shane, I'm going to start with you, man. Let's just talk about Deshaun Watson first here. What you're thinking about, what you're trying to do with him first.
I mean, if it's me, and you and I have talked about this kind of off air before as well, Ben, I'm paying my medical team even more money than I did before to try to find a way for him not to pass a physical. Like you mentioned with some of the restructuring of the deals, I haven't had a chance to look over some of those restructures, but a lot of times you might be able to get that as if he can't pass the physical to alarm him after that cut date, you may be able to save some money that way. I don't think there's any way, regardless of what the money is, that you can keep Deshaun Watson on the team. Um, I I wasn't a fan of him before. The seasons with the Browns haven't changed that. Um, and I think the team shows that when they have a quarterback that they're behind, even when Jameson Winston has made some, some terrible interceptions, the team actually wants to play for him. I don't think that that's true for
Yep.
Deshaun Watson, and I don't know if you can sit for another year and let him be a backup. I mean, if a starter, he's already proven that's not going to go well. I don't think he's a great backup. For me, I would cut the money. You're going to take a hit. Um, and it's just not going to go well for you either way. Unfortunately, when you sign deals like this, um, you're going to put yourself in this spot.
It's a tough spot no matter what you do. Austin, I'm gonna have you jump in here now. How you feeling about keeping Watson in the building, and if you're ready for him to just move on, what's the exit strategy here?
It's tough. I mean, this is the toughest
It's tough. And
position that any franchise is in right now. I mean, it's so easy to say, just cut them and take the money loss, but like these owners are, this is like their money. They don't want to do this. I could see them trying to hang on for a year and just hope that, and you hope that his escapades are behind him, right?
right,
But maybe you hope that uh, something else comes to light that had already happened and he can
right,
be held accountable for that. And maybe that can give you some sort of out as a team. Obviously, you're not hoping he does anything, now to
right.
make that happen, but maybe you're hoping that something comes to light that happened in the past. I think that's probably your best case scenario. So maybe you just
Yeah.
cross your fingers. I don't think you have anything with Dorian Thompson Robinson. I don't think you have anything with Deshaun Watson. As Shane mentioned, maybe he doesn't pass a physical. I know he wouldn't pass a mental. I don't think he's there checked in at all. Like I think he's
No.
somewhere else completely.
Yep.
So it's tough, and it's tough to just take another year playing with what you've got. But I also am not in love with any of these quarterbacks in this draft class. I have not gotten through my draft evaluations. I'm just in the early processes of that. So we'll see. Opinions and change. My opinion might change. We'll see some information in the draft combine. Maybe one of these guys, just lights it up. But I mean, I'm honestly, if I'm an organization who needs a quarterback this year, I'm pretty bummed, and I'm looking forward to the 2026 draft. So maybe this isn't the worst thing to let Deshaun hang around for another year, um, and lose you some more games.
It's tough no matter what you do. You guys are dead on it. Option number one has got to be, can we find some reason to get out of this contract some way,
Mhm.
somehow? So, and again, the Browns organization can't say this out loud in public. We know that, but behind closed doors, they have got to be having all their team resources possible, their lawyers, everybody working on, is there any way we can get out of this contract, any loophole, any technical thing, anywhere, because we're not getting our money's worth. Deshaun's getting paid, but we're not getting what we paid for in any way, shape, or form. All right. We're not getting it on field. We're not getting it off field. We're getting ripped off here. Now, maybe it's our fault for signing this contract in the first place, but we're not getting what we paid for. So we've got every right to be exploring and seeing, can we get out of this contract in any way? Maybe it's a morality thing, a clause like that he has failed to live up to. Maybe you get a new revelation, because these revelations have come out several times. They've been spread apart over months, kind of like just elastic. So that's got to be option number one. If they're stuck with the contract, though, I'm inclined to just go ahead and let him go, and then I'll talk to my staff about whether or not that's a post June 1st cut, or whether we just swallow the thing wholesale in this 1 year. So that's where I'm at as well. But there's no easy choices here. I'm going to go over the free agents. I don't think they're realistic, though, because again, money wise, you're just completely up against it, right? So you're just stuck with that. But some of the free agents that might be out there will be both the Steelers guys, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. We'll see if they make the market or not. Jameis Winston, of course, who's already debuting for the Browns right now. At least the players like him, but he's already kind of had to take a seat there to Dorian Robinson. Sam Darnold for the Vikings is going to be just way too expensive. I mean, they got no chance at him. Cooper Rush for the Cowboys. I like the way Cooper Rush plays as a backup. Did you get him on the cheap here in Cleveland? And then Jacoby Brissett with the Patriots. I just don't think they're going to have the money for that. So then we get into the draft. And Austin, you're right. This is everybody's least favorite quarterback draft. I got two guys I like here, but I don't see how Cleveland's even going to be trading up for those two guys. I think those two guys are going to be gone, even if they like one of them, which a lot of people don't. A lot of people look at this draft class and think, man, quarterback wise, just don't like it. It just doesn't feel good. It's lower. So then you're looking at, hey, do I go to, do I grab Jalen Milroe? I mean, that's rough, drop down to, fifth round here and get Riley Leonard or Dylan Gabriel or Curtis Rourke, in one of the low rounds. It is tough. Shane, I'll bring it back to you for a final thought here on your side. No matter what happens with Watson financially, option wise, what do we do here at quarterback, man? Who do we want playing for us in 2025?
I think the key thing is exactly what you and Austin hit on. There's nobody in the top, I would probably say top 4 rounds as a QB that I'm really jumping at if I'm them. I think each of them has issues. Like you said, I think probably the first two quarterbacks without Cleveland having a chance will already be off the board. But when you look at that, Milrose, Beck, Ewers, if he even goes, Jackson Dart, everyone has some issues on there. I think that Dylan Gabriel wouldn't be a bad pull for them. Like I said, I think Winston has the best interests of the team. The problem is that he's still himself. So if you can handle interceptions and a high number of them, then you're okay. But the thing is Watson would, regardless of how he is as a person, he has not been a good quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. So not only were you not getting the person that you were looking for, but you were in trouble already. So I think, like you said, you kind of hit on that money, and then maybe we do take a quarterback in the 4th round. And if we're going to take our welts, then we take our welts and see where we are. Having the quarterback be picked that late, we're not really hurting money wise. So then if you go up the next year after you've taken this cap hit, maybe that's your move. The other thing that, Austin hit on with, some of these things happening, I just can't believe that the Cleveland Browns did not put a morality clause into this contract. When you consider like the Cardinals put Kyler Murray has to study more in his contract for, his supposed, video game play where he's done nothing. Like there's nothing wrong with Kyler Murray. And you have a guy that at the point had 24 indictments against him, and you don't put a clause in there is just unbelievable to me. Again, it's the Cleveland Browns. They've made these mistakes. That's why they're in the spots they've been in. People said the same thing about Johnny Manziel, and they decided not to listen to character flaws and figured we'll be able to turn him around. That didn't work out for him either. I think it's going to be another year where that famous Browns jersey gets to add 2-3 more quarterbacks to the list, and people just keep on crossing them off without any Super Bowls.
Hate it for Browns fans. Austin, I know where I want to go into this off season, but I want to get your thoughts because I eat this stuff up, man. I live for roster building and off season stuff, but there's no good choices here, right? We've kind of established there's no great choices here, but I got to do something. So where are you leaning on who you might want to play quarterback for you next year?
So I absolutely refuse to draft a quarterback in the 1st round if I'm the Browns. That's just not happening. That's not where the value is. And you're not going to suddenly start winning a bunch of games with any of these guys jumping in at quarterback for you. There's a name that is lower down in a lot of draft boards that is really high up in my guessing of where my draft rankings are going to run out. Again, like I said, I haven't gone through the process yet,
Mm-hmm.
but I anticipate Jackson Dart being really high up on my board. I'm talking like a top three quarterback for me.
Yeah.
Will that end up happening? I don't know, but I'm seeing a lot of people put him as a third rounder, a fourth rounder. If
Right.
I can get Jackson Dart in the fourth round, I'm doing it. Potentially even as a third round. If I'm a team that really needs a quarterback, once you hit the third round, to me, that's when the Browns can say, okay, we've addressed two positions that we can just, slightly improve. Now we can take a dart throw per se, on Jackson Dart, but it's not you're not investing a whole bunch of draft capital. You feel like you can back that up again the following season with a first round QB, potentially if it doesn't work out. But hey, maybe it works out. Maybe you can let him run through his rookie contract and see how he develops. So that's probably where I'm going.
1,000% agree with that. That's awesome. That's really great. Our friend Simon Short will show the audience his show here in a few minutes at the end of the show when we show our podcast family. He likes Jackson Dart as well. He's kind of picked him out again, early draft process, reserve the right to change our minds. But early on, he likes Jackson Dart as well as kind of a dark horse mid round, third, fourth, whatever, kind of a guy that at least gives you a chance here. I'm in the same boat. I'll come back to that in a second, though. I want to get rid of Deshaun Watson. I just don't want him in the building anymore. If we've exhausted every possibility, and let's just get him on out. I'll talk to my staff. They can talk me into or out of a P61 cut versus swallowing the whole thing at the same time. I'm split on that. And then I want to keep Jameis Winston, not necessarily as my starter. I just want him in the building. I like the vibes. I like him as my backup. I think he'll give me a pretty good rate to work with next year. I don't think a lot of teams are going to be throwing lots of money at him, so I think I can afford to keep him next year. I really like what he's done just in terms of just being a backup, being available. I like that. And then I'm going to do exactly what you guys are talking about. I'm going to go to the second, third, fourth round, fifth round, somewhere in there, and I'm going to pick out one of these quarterbacks that I like, whether it's Jackson Dart or whether it's Dylan Gabriel or Curtis Rourke. And the reason I want to do that, I'm not as down on the top quarterbacks as I think Austin is. But if I draft a guy, say Jalen Milroe, first round this year, my owner expects me to be all in on him for the next 2, 3 seasons. And if I go to him next year and say, hey, this guy didn't look too great, we want to draft somebody else, he's going to look at me sideways. He's going to be, well, why'd you draft him? I thought you believed in him. Well, no, we just needed a guy. Well, go get your guy in the third and fourth round. Don't have all the spotlight from the fan base, all the attention from the media, and most of all, the owner's expectations on your first round pick that was kind of iffy in the first place. So don't do that if you're the Browns, somewhere third, fourth round. Get you a guy just to kind of work with Winston. No matter what, next year's not going to be a pretty season. It's just not. So figuring out the best way to work your way through that. All right, Cleveland Browns fans, we love you. Sorry you're struggling, but come see us in a season or two. Maybe it'll be different. All right, I've got something that I'm really looking forward to here. Shane and Austin, they tend to love offensive line and wide receivers, respectively. In so doing, they see a lot of defensive lines and a lot of the secondary. So they're going to hit kind of their secondary specialties here, hand out some awards in the NFL tonight to our top 5 defensive lines, our top 5 defensive backfields as well. Shane, lay it on us, man. We've got 3 awards, first, second, third, and we're going to give out 2 honorable mentions, 2 Will Ferrells as well to these defensive lines. Shane?
So, I mean, in considering mine, I went with, we're going with the injuries that are currently on the board. So, obviously, somebody like Agent Hutchinson, that knocks down the Lions because they don't have any defenders left, things like that. Also, I think defensive line now in the NFL, there's a lot of linebackers that end up playing a lot of the edge roles. So, I threw some of those guys in on this one. My number 5, one that I think that doesn't get a ton of credit right now, is the Minnesota Vikings. Andrew Van Ginkel, John Greenwood, they've got some guys that are putting great defensive pressure on. and making moves. Brian Fuentes does a great job with mixing, matching his defenses. And I think they've played better than anyone kind of thought that defensive line would expect it to be. My second one is a youth group and one that I certainly didn't expect to play as well as they have this year, with losing probably the best defensive lineman in the NFL in the last 10 years with Aaron Donald. So I picked the Rams. I think Verse and Fisk have done a great job for them. Probably the shining stars on their defense right now, and have really made a push for the Rams to show better than what I expected this year defensively. For my number three, I went with the Eagles. A lot of that is defensive tackle sheer size. It didn't end up working out well for them this week, but I think that they help the defensive backfield, which has gotten a lot of credit this year with how they've played. Number two is the Chiefs, and really this is a lot of Chris Jones. The
Right.
defensive line is one where you can have one outstanding superstar and he can drag up the rest of the team. George Karlaftis has played well. They have some other pieces in there, but when you have a dominant force as a DT, there's a lot of different games you can play around. And then one where I think the outside guys get a lot of credit for what happens. My number one, they're not my favorite team by any stretch, but the Pittsburgh Steelers with Cam Hayward and the way that they can mix and match interior linemen with the pass rush. So with TJ Watt, Highsmith, those type of guys that they're coming off of there, Nick Hibrig. I think they're ones that have showed up. Like I said, there's other teams that I like probably better without some injuries, but you eliminate those guys. In years past, I think San Francisco would have been solidly in my top five, but they've underperformed this year.
They have, and they may jettison one or two of those guys, like a Hargrave, during the offseason. We might be looking at a very different defensive line for them next year. The one that catches my attention here is the Rams defensive line, because with Fisk and with Verse, they are completely different. A lot of people thought Verse or Fisk, either one, might have a decent season, but nobody looked at this defensive line and said, hey, they're going to be really good this year. They're going to really get after it. They're going to create problems for opposing offenses. And man, here they are. I mean, they've kind of hit on both these guys. And McVay, if you give him a little bit to work with, man, as the kind of the CEO here of the team, him and his coordinators, boy, they just know how to mix and match and kind of, create a lot out of very little here. So love it there with the Rams. Austin, let's hear from you, man. Let's get your defensive backfields and start with a couple of Will Ferrells, or start on the other end if you want.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. I'll start at the top. Why not? Uh, this one was pretty easy for me. It's the Denver Broncos. They are elite in their secondary, not
Yeah,
only in coverage, but with run stopping. And they even have a couple guys who, like Riley Moss, who kind of comes off the edge pretty good
yeah,
whenever he's asked to get after the quarterback. I think he has a couple pressures and hurries on the quarterback this season. Just overall fantastic. Brandon Jones at safety is a monster, and then obviously, Pat Surtain, one of the best in all of football at corner. It got tough after that, I'll be honest. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do fully healthy rosters or including injuries. I went opposite of Shane. I was like, let's just do assuming, health on these teams. And so I had, and this is when I'll toot my horn a little bit. I was so high on the Detroit Lions secondary this year. It was a
yep,
big weakness for them, and I talked about how they need to address it, and then they did, and then I applauded for them. I applauded them for how well they addressed it, I thought. And then they've come out and to me they're the second best secondary, assuming health this year. I know they've been pretty injured all across their defense, but
right,
uh, Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch are probably my favorite safety duo in the entire league right
okay,
now. And then I think they have a really good corner in Carlton Davis as well as Terrion Arnold, the rookie who has not looked great this year, but definitely showed the ability to tackle. I think his pass coverage will improve over time. Third place, again, another one that was tough for me. I was going back and forth between two teams here, but I ended up sticking with the Eagles. Not because I think their coverage is better than these next two, but I think what they do as a whole is better. And I have to give credit, as uh, Shane mentioned, their defensive front's really good, and that's very helpful. Like they
Right.
grade out so well in the secondary, but a lot of it is based on how good their uh, front seven is at getting quarterbacks to make mistakes for their secondary to capitalize on. But Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell are two electric DBs. DeJean can play anywhere in that secondary and look good, and Quinion Mitchell is looking like someone who you're going to be able to just sick on a wide receiver one and let him handle business. He's not there yet, but he's looking like he could be that kind of guy. And then we get to my honorable mentions. I'll just go ahead and throw both their names out there. It is Green Bay and it is Atlanta. And Atlanta does not grade out well defensively. I'm aware of this, but this is another situation where I think they have some real top end talent who has not been healthy all year and they're getting healthy. And I think will be really good next year. Jesse Bates, one of the best to do it in recent years at safety. Kevin King and Natrone Brooks both have not played a whole lot of snaps, but they are very good when healthy. And then I really like AJ Terrell and Clark Phillips. I think those guys are really good, as well as Mike Hughes, who's been around a while in this league. Just a savvy veteran. And then talking about the Packers, their defense has really surprised me as a whole. Xavier McKinney having a career resurgence, I think, this year. He's looking like worth every penny of a large contract. And Jair Alexander is well known for what he does, and probably doesn't get enough recognition for how good he is as a corner.
I like all of that. Two teams jump out there. The Falcons, you dialed the clock back, say 2 years ago, their secondary was awful, dreadful, miserable. I mean, just bottom of the league, the dregs, right? Well, they've worked on it and they've done several different things drafting. Jesse Bates, though, to me, has been the biggest difference. So, like, he has been the guy who's just kind of let everybody else kind of grow and fit a little bit. He is so good back there. You're 100% right about him, but he's not the only guy. Terrell's super talented. I'm not even sure we've seen the best of Terrell yet. I think he can do better. But you're right. The talent's there. And Bates, to me, is really the guy that seals the deal back there. And then the Lions. The Lions did something with that secondary because you're right. That's the reason they were losing last year, giving up tons of points, passing yards. They went after it. They fixed it. The Chiefs do that a lot. If they have one major weakness, they don't always successfully do it, but they'll go after that one offseason. They'll just spend an entire offseason trying to fix that one thing that's keeping them from winning. The Lions did that. It looks really good. The direction they're going in with that has really helped them a lot out there on the back end statistically, and you were ahead of it on that even from before the season started. So, all right, I love the awards here. Got the best. I think the Eagles scored two awards during our offensive session too. Is that right? On
I
skill
think so.
position and offensive line, right?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the Eagles racking up all the awards here, no matter what we're doing. No surprise on that. All right, that's enough of that for tonight. We're going to go on to our final 60 for you while our guys are getting their stuff ready. Here's our network. I mentioned Simon Short and Simon and Friends podcast. You want to check that out? Odds on favorite with me and Robertson. Tricky takes with Austin and his crew over there, especially the Tricky 50. That's something that he's working on nonstop, and he's even going to do more things with it starting in January sometime. So check that out. Two Peas on a Pod. That's Peyton and his brother Parker. Check them out. And then because CONCACAF with Andy, and I apologize, I can't remember Andy's partner, but they do a great job as well on the soccer side of things. So check them all out. Apple and Spotify. Shane, your final 60.
Well, to start off holiday season, so I wish everybody, happy holidays, getting to see their family and how that goes. And then you mentioned tricky takes. I think one of the things that Austin and his group do the best is Major League Baseball. And this week we lost one of the best as well, and Ricky Henderson. I mean, with him, not only the person, the sheer talent, and a player who defined the position. He is a leadoff hitter for everyone that watched him at any point during his career. He is what you think of when you try to create a leadoff hitter. Outstanding speed, uh, more power than what a lot of people expected to begin his career, and then longevity. Just continued to want to play forever, and up and even in past years, way after he had retired, up until 6 years after he retired, he had continued to tell teams like, "I'm still available," and he played, in some if New York Bears and some other independent leagues just to keep going to prove that at 40, 44, 46, he could still just do what needed to be done. I've loved getting to hear some of the stories come back about Ricky and the way that he talked about things. The one for me that's jumped out the most is his conversation on the 1 year during the 80s that he didn't win the stolen base record because he was injured, and him calling Harold and telling him that he ought to be ashamed that he only stole 60 bases because Ricky would have done that by the All-Star break. So hats off to him. Sad to see him go, but just absolute force. For me, I don't remember him as much with the Oakland Athletics as I remember him with the Toronto Blue Jays when they made their runs against the Braves. So
Losing Ricky sucks. I did not expect that. I knew he had a little bit of health problems. I did not expect him to be gone when he left us, hoping for another 20 years out of him. I got to watch him the most with the A's, which was a little bit before. I missed most of his Yankees time, but watching him with the A's, the stolen bases, which he wasn't even quite as good of a stolen base guy with the A's as he was back with the Yankees. I mean, he was torching it. He was still basically unstoppable with the A's, but he was hitting more power, and they didn't need him to steal as many bases because they had all these power hitters behind him. They didn't want him getting thrown out, so they couldn't hit their home runs with McGuire and Canseco and Henderson and Parker, and you just go on and on and on there with the A's. But loved watching Ricky play. The power and the speed at the leadoff, the batting average, the bunting, you name it. Wasn't anything he couldn't do out of that leadoff spot. So totally agree. Shane, I'm sorry, Austin, your final 60.
Yeah, just quick note on Ricky. I think the Hall of Fame voters really showed their hand when six of them didn't vote Ricky Henderson to be a Hall of Famer. Uh, I mean, just there's like should be a litmus test every few years with like a player who gets put on the ballot, and if you don't
Yeah.
vote them, you get your rights taken away to vote.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it should be a mystery player, and they shouldn't announce when they're doing it. But every once in a while, like this year, Ichiro. If you don't vote Ichiro to be a Hall of Famer, you just have your right to vote
What are you
taken
voting
away.
for? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Ricky absolutely is one of those guys. Legendary stories about him. Trevor Plouffe had a really good story. If you want to go look up him, this was way after Ricky retired. How he still hung around the clubhouse all the time in Oakland. But I wanted to give my final 60 to a movie. I haven't done this in a while.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
been so busy with other stuff. But we went and saw Wicked the other day, and this was an incredible movie. I've never seen the Broadway show before or it really knew anything about it, but I absolutely loved it. Cynthia Erivo's vocals are she might have just the voice that resonates with me better than anybody I've ever heard. It's just she just sounded so incredible, as well as Ariana sounded great and the whole cast, and it was just a wonderful movie overall. And since it is the end of the year and this will be the last one of these I'll be doing, I wanted to give my top three movies of the year. So
Yeah, man.
in order, those would be coming in at number three, Wicked. It was fantastic. My third favorite movie of the year. Number two, sneaky movie of the summer, Twisters. Really loved that movie. The
Remember that.
soundtrack on it also great. And the number one, Dune 2. God, that movie was so incredible. I love Dune 1 and Dune 2. So those are my top three of 2024.
No, I love all of that. My wife went to see Wicked. I haven't yet seen it, but I need to because
It's
based
worth
on what
seeing.
everybody's saying, yeah, I definitely need to go and see that as well. All right, everybody, hope you have happy holidays, a Christmas, a New Year's, however you do it with you and yours. I hope you enjoy every bit of it. We'll be here next Tuesday. Austin's going to skip a week, planning to be back with us in 2 weeks. We're going to cover some Patriots next week, some Panthers the following week. We're all over the playoffs, so don't forget that, even though we're hitting some off-season stuff already, but we're definitely going to be hitting playoff stuff. and we'll have some accountability factors with who can pick the best playoff winners. All right. So as we go through, we'll do some of that as well. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a great one, and goodbye.